Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's season 2. Oh my god. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 1 of season 2 of Ace of Hearts, which is a podcast for alloromantic asexuals. I almost just ran out of breath for that, but thank you so much for tuning back in, for returning listeners, for new listeners. I really appreciate it. You know, doing this podcast is a lot of fun, and what's even better is the friends that I make and the people that I get to talk to. So I'm really excited to have an interviewee for this episode. We have Kris here from Russia, and he's going to talk to us about Graysexuality and much, much more. So listen into our conversation here. Thanks for listening.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are
I
you?
hear you. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, okay. I'm good. I'm kind of sleepy because I had to get up at 8, which for me is very early.
Oh. Yeah, I get up around 7ish sometimes, so I'm tired
Wow.
too.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah. So I thought I'd just start out by having you tell people just like a quick summary about yourself, just so they kind of get an idea of who you are, who they're listening to, and yeah.
Okay. So my name is Kris. I'm 23. I live in Russia. And I'm gray asexual and also bisexual and genderqueer.
Hell yeah. And I know that a lot of our listeners are ace. I feel like some of them are allo. Can you just give them like a quick recap of what gray sexuality is to them for those who
Yeah.
don't know?
So gray sexuality basically is in between asexuality and allosexuality. So there's a lot of different definitions. It's very flexible. Like for some people, they feel sexual attraction very, very rarely. For some people, it's they feel it at a very low intensity, and for some, it's like under specific circumstances. So demisexual, for example, would fit under that.
Mhm.
Um, I think what's really cool about Gray Ace is that it's so like vague because like running this blog, what I realized is that you can ask like two gray aces what it means, and they will give completely different answers.
Yeah,
There's like so much diversity, it's beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, do you wanna tell people a little bit about your blog that you're referring to?
Yeah, I've been, oh God, how long have I been writing it for? Like 3 years, maybe? No, like 4 years.
Wow.
It's it's just like it's a lot of reblogs. I try to be very consistent, and I try to sort of like have a mix of educational stuff, positivity, sort of community issues type things. I make my own posts, not with any sort of like schedule, but I make them fairly regularly. And I try to like engage with the community as much as I can. So people write in sometimes and they're like, "What is wrong with me?" And I'm like, "Absolutely nothing."
Yeah, like, no, you're perfect. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I definitely like, and for people listening, that's how we connected, was over Tumblr, over
Oh
the
yeah.
blogging site. No, I love the Ace community on Tumblr because it's like you said, like there's like the educational, the informational, and then I love like just finding straight up memes. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah. Ship
I definitely,
posts.
yeah.
Beautiful art, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I reblog a lot of beautiful art.
I saw so much cool stuff for the Asexuality Day, and I'm like, damn, some of y'all are
Yeah.
so fucking talented. It's
Yeah.
amazing. My next question was gonna be, and you kind of answered it already. I was gonna be like, what's like your favorite thing about being gray ace? I really liked,
Oh.
what you said about, people, it's such a wide, array of experiences that people, can still like connect in like both of them being gray ace, but that it's a different experience, but all falling under that.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I think that's true of a lot of queer identities, right? Like words are just words.
yeah, and
You
just using
make
them to get
what you
together.
want out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, like, do you feel any advantages, like specifically for being gray ace, or any disadvantages? Because something when I did the studio interviews, I just asked like people just about asexuality in general, but in specifics to gray
Oh yeah, I
asexuality.
noticed. I
Yeah.
noticed. I like watched them with a notepad. I was like, what does she
Hell yeah.
know?
You were ready.
Advantages like compared to what? Like compared to being allosexual or compared to being black stripe asexual?
I would say allosexual.
Okay, well, Uh, okay. I
If
gotta think
any.
about this
Yeah.
one.
Some people they were like, "Oh, I don't see any advantages." And some people were like, "Oh, I like,
Well, practically speaking, there are no advantages because we get a lot of shit all the time.
all the hate."
But again, that's true of most queer identities, and I still would not choose being allosexual over being graysexual
Yeah.
because it's brought me so much like confidence in myself and better understanding of myself and others.
Same here. I definitely feel that because like I in the previous episode I talked about like how I had a really bad experience being ace and trying to date someone and then it led me to create this project and then make all these
Yeah.
friends like all over the world like and talk to
Oh
people all
yeah.
over the like it was like such a good
Like
thing and I wouldn't have this community if I wasn't the way I was.
I've been on Tumblr since like 2018 maybe, and Gray Space recently surpassed my main blog, which has been running for that whole time.
Wow.
Like definitely I've found more sort of an audience with Gray Space because it's like it's my main blog is just like a dump of everything I like and care about. And Gray Space is like a communal thing.
I love that. I definitely like I just kind of like snooped around like I never partook in like any like ace conversations. I kind of just like watched them from afar and then
Mhm.
like when I wanted to do the project, I was like, okay, I'm under Tracy and I can like join in and like join the conversation and yeah, no.
Yeah, doing great.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you for people like thinking about gray sexuality, what do you think is their biggest misconception and like what would you clear up about it if you could?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think the misconception that, like the biggest misconception in general is just that asexuality is all or nothing. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who think gray aces don't count or don't belong. And
The
it's like,
exclusionists.
oh yeah, it's like, like, what do you think the gray stripe is there for?
Literally.
Literally. Um, yeah, I just feel like a lot of people, so like even IRL, I don't know if I'm answering the question you asked or if I'm just saying something random,
Hey, go
but
for
like,
it.
like even in real life, I don't tend to tell people I'm gray ace unless I've gotten really close with them because I've gotten like negative reactions, even from other queer people, even from other asexuals. I got like, oh, that's not a thing. You're basically just allosexual. Why are you like micro labeling
Oh,
the way you experience attraction as if that's something that's like, it's a lot of,
why are
it's
people
a lot of
like, why do
bullshit.
they care? Why do they care so
I
much?
don't know.
It's funny because like you just reminded me when I was like first starting this project, I was like posting to different Reddit threads like, "Hey, does anybody want to be interviewed like over Zoom or like in if you live in Los Angeles?" And I was just posting to all the ones that like had asexuality in the in the title and I like accidentally stumbled across this one that was like I didn't even know they were exclusionists. They were called like well looking back at the title it's like okay, yeah. But they're called like actually asexuals. And I like
Oh,
posted, yeah, I posted in there and I was like, does anybody, I'm looking for like demisexuals, gray sexuals, like everybody. And like all these people, like they immediately started commenting and they were saying like, oh, you can't do this project. You can't include demis because they're not
uh,
real. You can't include gray aces because they're not part of it. And I was like, why are you guys like fighting other people in your own community? And it was just so
God.
funny because like they were like trying to start fights with me and trying to be like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this project because like you're going to give people the wrong idea about
Oh yeah.
asexuality." And I was like, "Oh my God, you guys. Like I'm trying to bring us together. I'm trying to bring us together and you guys are tearing us apart." They like literally in the subreddit, they edited the gray part out of the flag.
Oh my God. Yeah,
And I
I
was
saw
like,
on Tumblr a while back, I saw like a blog that was like, I don't remember what the title was, but it was something akin to what you said, where it was like, the bio was like, dedicated to combating misinformation about asexuality. And they literally like made a flag without a gray stripe.
and
And
it's
then when I
like
told them they were being ahistoric, they blocked me.
oh my God. No, literally, it's like I feel like if you're editing like what is like the legitimate flag, it's like you know you're wrong. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
changing our
absolutely.
flag. Like It was funny. It was like,
I
oh,
think I sort of have like a unique perspective on exclusionism
mhm,
in some ways because, well, at least like on Tumblr, which is like overwhelmingly Americans and,
yeah.
generally English-speaking people, where like people will sometimes, especially TERFs,
Mhm.
as a gotcha, they will be like, well, in Russia, queer people are suffering, there's all these gay people are being persecuted, and you're over here like talking about like nonsense, and what do you mean you want rights? And it's because I live here and because I experience all this shit,
Mhm.
I understand more than anyone the importance of solidarity, because like we truly do have bigger problems than trying to decide who does and does not belong in the clubhouse. Like
Literally. You're like, exactly like you said, you're like, I just want rights for all of us. Like, why are people, especially who don't even live there, like, why
yeah,
is
and they
that
always
there?
use it as like the only way they care about us is when they can use us as an argument for their agenda. They don't care
Yeah.
about queer Russians. They haven't studied the topic.
That actually was gonna be like my next thing I wanted to ask you, like your experience about being asexual in Russia, because I know that we spoke really briefly on Tumblr about like the
Yeah, yeah.
apps and everything, and like you said like how you're not allowed to be out on the apps, and like I just wanted to give like listeners an idea of like how we don't all have the same like
Yeah,
privileges.
so I'm gonna like give basic context for what it's like for queer people in Russia. This is not like asexuality specific. I think
Mhm.
in a lot of ways I can't really untangle it from my other queer identities because like
Yeah.
the way I say it is like I'm queer in at least three different ways.
Mhm.
And all of them make life harder for me. So I think when you talk about like the way queer rights develop, there's this whole thing about like, oh, it gets better. Like we tend to see it as well because like Americans especially see it as like the straight line, right?
Yeah.
Like it was bad and then it got better and it's getting better. This is not always the case. I was born in 2000 and I was too little to understand, but back then it really seemed like queer rights were getting better.
Mhm.
Like people were coming around more to accepting it, and then it got really, really much worse, and especially in the past few years. So we used to have a law that basically said you're not allowed to positively discuss being queer in any way with children. So it was like a protect the children type of thing.
Mhm.
And then recently, uh, there also the laws got harsher. So now you can't, not only can you not talk to children about queer people in a positive way, you just cannot talk about queer people in a positive way. Like it's
Yeah.
considered extremism. So you can get like people have been getting like arrested for wearing rainbow flags and stuff.
That's
Um,
insane.
it's insane. I used to have like I wear a bag with a lot of pins on it, like fandom stuff, like band names. And I used to have like a bisexual pin, a genderqueer pin, and a gray asexual pin.
Mhm.
And when this whole thing happened, like when the new law came into being, I literally had to take them off and I like pinned them to the inside of the bag.
Yeah.
And my mom said like, oh, they went underground. It's like funny because like you laugh because if you don't laugh, you're just gonna cry.
Yeah, no, like I can't imagine like being forced to kind of like strip a part of my identity that I would want to wear freely, just like
And
out
another
here in a
thing is like I came out as genderqueer by gender. So in English I'm kind of more ambivalent about pronouns, but in Russian it really irks me when people use she, her.
Mhm.
So all of my friends, like my friends know, because I'm very lucky to have cool friends and a cool mom and a cool therapist and a cool psychiatrist. So I'm
Yeah.
out to all those people. But Russian is an extremely gendered language. I don't know if like you studied like Spanish or German in school or whatever.
I studied a little Spanish, but I don't know any
Yes.
Russian.
So, yeah, no, I didn't expect you to. I'm just saying that, like, English is basically not gendered. Like, you have pronouns. You only use pronouns if you're introducing someone to someone else.
Mhm.
Is this linguistic aside interesting?
No, yeah. Like I didn't know that
Okay.
about Russian that,
So,
you kind
so then
of
we have stuff like Spanish, where it's gendered in the way that nouns are gendered and adjectives are gendered. I'm kind of a language nerd a little bit. I teach English to Russian kids, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
also learning Spanish by myself. Um,
Oh.
and so you have like stuff like I don't know, like niño is boy, niña is girl, and then adjectives change their ending. In Russian, it's even worse because in Russian, verbs are also gendered. So
Oh
it's not
wow.
just that you talk, like if you talk about yourself and you talk about yourself in the past tense, like I went to work, I ate dinner, you have to gender yourself when you do that. And
Mhm.
so for work, like for my general safety, like at work with people I don't know, I have to misgender myself constantly.
Mm,
Like
that's
I literally have to like code switch every single time.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that about Russian.
Yeah, and also like an interesting thing is that despite all of this, despite all of this like homophobic laws and stuff, like 95% of my Russian friends are queer.
I mean, that's
And some
good.
of
You gotta
them,
have your tribe.
yeah, and some of them figured out they were queer because of me. Like my friends joke that if you're friends with me long enough, you just will come out eventually.
No, literally. I feel like that way. Like I feel like I make a couple people around me realize that they may be on the ace spectrum. Like
Oh
I've
yeah,
had different people.
yeah.
I had different people like that I went to school with, like that I see like take interest in the project that like, never really talked to me in school, but then I see them like looking at all the stories and liking all the posts. I'm like,
Aw.
are you coming to a realization? Like no, it's super sweet. Like
Well, it's a thing, like it really is like community is everything because like I had a friend, I actually had a Tumblr post about this a while ago where like he figured out he was demisexual while talking to me. And
what?
I myself would not have gotten where I am if not for my first boyfriend who was asexual. So, I
Oh
think
yeah.
actually the best part of running Gray Space is that, like helping people realize like holy shit, you could do that the whole time, you could be that.
Literally, like helping people have that aha moment that, we could have used like 10 years ago, but but like it's so cool that nowadays we like have such like and TikTok and everything like stuff can spread so virally and like reach so
Yeah.
many people in such a short amount of time. Just like I
Yeah,
love
it would have saved
progress.
me a lot of heartache to know earlier in my life. Because actually, funnily enough, like, so like I said, my boyfriend was asexual, and when I was a teenager, I more or less knew what it was, but I thought it couldn't possibly apply to me because, like, everyone's like, "Oh, you never feel any sexual attraction at all." I was like, "That's not me." I mean, the way I define it now is like I'm like 75% asexual, and I'm like 25% horny gremlin. And when that horny gremlin comes out and how is highly variable.
Yeah,
But
goblin
like, and
mode.
yes, it's yes, literally. Like I compare it to werewolves oftentimes because it's like you're just living your normal asexual life, and then you get hit with this like wave. You're like, what the fuck is this? And how do people cope with it all the time? Like I generally don't understand how allosexuals live like this. Like, I don't know if
Literally.
they get used to it or if they're just permanently made stupider by horniness. I don't know.
So therefore asexuals are smarter. No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, like literally exactly what you said, where you like had, your boyfriend was ace. Like my best friend in the world was ace, and I still was like, yeah, no, that doesn't apply to me because I felt such strong romantic feelings, and I like
Yeah.
I didn't know the split attraction model, so I was like, there
Yeah.
has to be something else there. I was like, I'm such a like simpy, like mushy gushy romantic. I was like, there's no way I'm ace. Like the whole time, like my best friend was ace, and then I was like, oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's like for me, it's like double imposter syndrome because I'm alloromantic, so I'm alloace, which most people don't get, and because I'm grace also. It's like being in no man's land, honestly. And this
Literally.
also applies to me being bisexual and bigender, like, that joke about how, I can't choose anything.
Can't make a decision.
I just cannot pathologically. Like, you end up getting so much shit from both sides in all of these instances, like, from black stripe aces, from,
Yeah.
monosexual gays and lesbians, and binary trans people.
No,
You sort of
literally.
have to find your freaks and, stick with them.
Exactly. That's what I like dislike the most about the exclusionists is it's like, okay, if you don't let people into this clubhouse and they're not, they can't belong with the allo clubhouse, where the fuck are they supposed to go? If
Yeah,
you're trying to keep them
exactly.
out of everywhere. Like
Yeah, because
I
it's not
just
like aloes get me either.
yeah,
I'm too ace for aloes, and I'm not ace enough for the aces. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? That's why I made gray space. Because like I was
exactly.
like, if there is no space, then I'm just gonna make it. I'm just gonna make my own fucking clubhouse.
Exactly. All the digital clubhouses up in here for people to come hang
I
and
thought you would like this. Literally, I started a diary a few days ago because I thought my therapist would like it. And I literally have like for today, the time of the call, I have like I like drew hearts next to it with glitter pens.
aw. What color glitter?
Pink and purple,
I love
obviously.
that. Yes. I literally pink and purple are my vibe. That's what I like think about for like all the I had one of my friends design like all the Tracy branding, like the colors and
Yeah, it's
everything based
beautiful.
off.
I like
Thank
that the
you.
icon is sort of like a spec flag colored. It's a
Thank you.
flag.
Yeah, it was my friend. She's a really talented artist, and I was like, "Hey, can I like pay you to just like do your thing? Because I'm like not good at graphic design or anything."
Yeah.
I was like, "You do your thing," and like that's another thing, like bringing different people onto the project and having them help, and then like I feel like they also like learn something while they're there. Because like one of my other friends, he's an animator, and so I had him make like some animations for like the split
Mhm.
attraction model and just like fun stuff. So
Nice.
all good stuff. Um, yeah, and then my last thing was just like I wanted to leave some time if you wanted to touch on like any other like things that came to mind or if you had something specifically like that you wanted to make more
Yeah.
time for.
Um, oh boy, I have some stuff written down. I
Hell
just
yeah, let's
consult.
fucking hear it. Let's hear
Let me
it.
consult with my thing.
Yes.
Okay, so one thing I really wanted to mention, again, in regards to being both gray ace and alloace, is that like I crush for people a lot. Like I fall in love very easily.
Same.
And yeah. And like so I've had like a lot of crushes over my life, and a lot of them were very intense. But like the fun thing is that like most of my crushes are completely asexual. So, and people struggle to understand this. Like, how do you explain to a person, like, oh yeah, I want to make out with you, but I do not want to sleep with you?
Literally.
And some of them, like tiny small percentage, are sexual, and it doesn't seem to correlate in any way to how much I like the person. It's just kind of random.
Yeah.
And it's like that with a lot of things, so it can be really confusing.
No, like legit, like sometimes like we can't choose who we fall for. It's just kind of like if your heart's there, it's there
And
and like
I don't consider, the ace crushers to be somehow lesser or less real than the ones that are not completely ace.
yeah. It's like, just love. I love love. I mean, you've heard me say that a million times on this.
Yep,
It's just like
I have to agree here. Love is great.
Mhm.
I Another thing is like, dating. I've dated I've been in two relationships. First one was an ace person, and the second one was with an allo person. So I kind of have like a convenient like
Yeah, like the
sort of
experience of both.
way to compare it. Yeah. So the thing, dating aces, dating my, asexual boyfriend, it was kind of amazing. There was no pressure. And back then, it's really funny. Back then, I didn't even consider myself ace.
Mhm.
So I was like fully in denial. But I remember thinking when he told me he was asexual, I was like, thank God I won't have to deal with all of that.
I love that. I'd
And
have
then
the
with
same reaction.
allosexuals, it's like it's more complicated because like I don't mind dating and I don't mind being in a sexual relationship. Like I think can be kind of nice.
Mhm.
But there's always this like tension where like it feels like I can't keep up. Like it's a huge fear that I just won't be enough for them. Like even if I'm prepared to do certain, sexual stuff, And even if I kind of like it too, it's either like, oh, it's not often enough for them, or like, oh, there isn't always attraction there, so I can't want them the way they want me.
Yeah.
And it's sad because like it's sad for you and it's sad for them because like they like my allo partner was not aphobic. They understood, but there's just a disconnect.
Yeah, definitely. And just like making sure that the person like has like the emotional intelligence to not take it personally and be like, it's not about
Yeah.
you. It's not,
Well,
not
you can intellectually know that it's not about you, but emotionally,
still be
and
hurt.
like intellectually, I know that, all of that stuff about like me being not enough is bullshit, but I still feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's hard in those situations. I haven't ever been in a relationship, but I've dated two people and I definitely have had those feelings of like, oh, am I not enough because I'm ace? Or if ever somebody was like mad at me, I'd be like, the bottom line, I'd be like, it's because I'm ace. Like I like, I always felt like I was on eggshells, kind of like
Yeah.
that was like already like a thing, and then like anything after that was like the last straw or something,
Mm.
So like that's definitely it's
Well, we
definitely the
really
same way
can't
here.
win, right? Because if you say you're ace, like you, like sex averse, asexual, no sexual attraction at all,
Yeah.
they either they're just like outright don't want to spend time with you, or they secretly hope they can like change your mind.
Yeah.
But if like when I say I'm gray asexual, first of all I have to explain what that is, because some people know what asexual is. Basically no one knows what gray is in the
Yeah.
circles that I've been in. And then like they hear, oh yeah, I feel sexual attraction sometimes, and they take that as, oh, they're basically allosexual. And then when they find out that's not the case at all, they're like, oh.
No, literally, like they make the mistake of being like, okay, cool, so you'll feel it as frequently as I do. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, did you not hear what I just said? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, people are something else. I think, with what we're doing here, with like how we're promoting like education and awareness, I think, we're slowly turning them.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I would like to think so.
I have like in my real life, so my therapist, for example, is a cis het, woman
Mhm.
who knew absolutely nothing about beyond the basics of like what gay is and what trans is before I met her.
Yeah,
And then I started talking about like the nuances of my sexuality and the nuances of asexuality, and she knows more now, and like she has thanked me for it.
that's good. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like it's important because there's even, there's like medical professionals and different people like who don't in high places who don't know what it is. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you really need to know what it is. I'm really lucky because there's a clinic in Los Angeles that I go to that they're like specifically like LGBTQIA plus like friendly. And so like when they do the whole like, have you smoked in the last 12 months? I'm like, no. Have you drank alcohol in the last 12 months?
Oh,
No. And they're like, sexual activity. I'm like, I'm asexual. And they're like, oh, okay. They just
yeah.
like skip past
Well,
that.
another shitty thing about like being queer in Russia specifically, I've been through a lot of like therapists and psychiatrists, and you just have to lie to them. Like you have to lie to them until you feel safe enough to tell them. And I've only
Yeah.
felt safe enough to tell like two or three of them who I was lucky were cool. Well, it's not that you were lucky, it's that you kind of like gauge it very carefully. You have to
Yeah.
learn to read between the lines, and you have to learn to like it's a whole skill set. And I really wish I didn't have to develop it, but
Sometimes it's about survival, honestly.
mhm.
And just being, you want the person to like listen to you. Aside from the therapy thing, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we bring this to a close? My Zoom meeting thing is like, you're running out of time. Six
Oh
minutes
no.
and 50
No, no.
seconds left. I mean, that's okay because like I have my episodes. I like to make them like 30 minutes because like, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, another thing I kind of wanted to mention is that weirdly enough, when people find out I'm, aspec, and then they find out I'm like super sex positive and kink positive, they're usually surprised.
Mhm.
Because I think there's this sort of like vibe that aces like hate sex, or like, very
Literally.
conservative about it, and that could not be further from the truth. Because I think what it comes down to is like sex positivity and ace acceptance sort of have to go hand in hand. Because if you accept that, people should be allowed to, have sex the way they want to, as much of it as they want to, you also have to accept that, some people just don't want to do it, and vice versa. And I think I see a lot of, unfortunately, in ace spaces, I see a lot of like sex shaming and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not okay. Like, we're fighting basically the same hydra. Like, it manifests in different ways, but we're all freaks to them.
Yeah.
We need to
We
have
need to
like some
stick
solidarity
together.
amongst ourselves.
Some
Yeah.
camaraderie. No, exactly. I totally agree with that. And I agree that like people just like, they're like, oh, you don't have sex or you have little to no sex, and you're just like, you must hate it, or, you must be like super slut shamey or things like that.
Yeah, I had a
Or,
friend who was a sex worker and she was scared to tell me. And when I was like, okay, why were you scared to tell me? Cool. She was genuinely shocked. It's such a weird stereotype.
I know, or like, the aces aren't gonna make the most like earth-shattering like sex jokes. Like, I feel like we're probably some of the funniest.
Also, we write the best smutty fan fiction.
Literally.
Just facts.
It's just like, yeah, no, people just like, I just and back to the, yeah, I know I keep talking about the exclusionists, but like back to that
Yeah.
of like where we need to be supportive of each other. Like, just because I'm, sex repulsed doesn't mean that I'm not gonna stick up for my sex favorable siblings, or believe that
Yeah, same
everybody
here.
should be, together in this community and have rights, and nobody should be shamed, and just like, or
Yeah, we're all
fucking,
different.
yeah.
We just gotta roll with it. You just gotta embrace it. You make your own rules also. Like another thing like about the whole all or nothing mentality. People come in and they're like, can I call myself a spec if blah blah blah? I'm always like, yes, yes you can.
Yeah.
Literally, if you find comfort in the label, if it helps you understand yourself better, if it helps you explain yourself better to other people, just fucking go for it. You can
Exactly.
do
I'm like,
anything you
just
want
use the
forever.
label. I know, like I'm like, you're your own person. Like, do whatever you want. It's no skin off
Do
my
what makes
back.
you
Like,
happy.
yeah. It's like if you identify with this, then you are.
Yeah,
Like,
I had
simple
the
as
same
that. Like,
thing with my gender where like I went back and forth a lot. I was like, do I count? Am I real? Am I,
do I exist?
do I exist? Am I taking up the space that I'm not supposed to be taking up?
It's like, no, you're enhancing it. You're making it
Yes,
better.
I'm making it so much cooler. I need to plug my blog. Go follow my
Yeah.
blog.
Yeah.
Gray
Okay.
space, gray with an A dash space. No, gray with an A dash ace dash space at tumblr.com.
We'll put your link in the description
Yeah.
too, so people, literally me, I'm always like Tracy with an E. It's like
Yeah.
it's not just Tracy, it's Tracey, Tracy with an E, cause the ace in it. I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for, being willing to participate and give us your perspective, and
Yeah, I saw an
especially,
opportunity and I got brave and I was like, I need to take this opportunity.
absolutely, and I appreciate it so much. This has been an amazing talk, and, if the people love this episode, you should come back.
Oh, I told a friend that I'm doing this and he jokes like, "Oh, you should aim for permanent co-host."
Literally. But anyway, thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you for
appreciate it.
listening to me.
Thank you so much for listening to our interview piece. And if you would like to be interviewed, shoot me an email at traceyshortfilm@gmail.com. And again, if interviewing's not your thing, but you still want to tell a story, you can always submit a story and I'll read it here on the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. And if you want to support the podcast, we have a link on our Spotify. And as always, on our link tree, we have the PayPal donation page for the short film that we're trying to do. So you can support us there or on Spotify. All the money goes to making Tracy, the short film, a reality. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.